Hello everyone. Today I am painting these backgammon boards, well, parts of backgammon boards so far, and I should say I'm continuing to paint them because I've actually already started. As you can see, the first step that I've done already is that I've spray painted these with a copper spray paint, and it's a hammered texture. It's actually this Rust-Oleum hammered finish, and I think it comes in a different container now. This is an old version of it, but I'm pretty sure they still sell it. But yeah, so it's all right. I kind of love the way that it does this neat little shimmery effect when I tilt it, just because the way the lines are done in the engraving, it's sort of reflecting back at that angle, which is kind of neat. And if I was smart, maybe I would just stop here and call it good. But to me, it's just not there yet, right? This is a very old game. It's ancient, and it's been evolving for thousands of years to become what it is today. And you know, it's just telling me, I don't know, like, hey lady, what's with the sparkle? What's with the shiny newness? I'm not shiny and new. I'm a classic. I'm sophisticated. I have wisdom in my bones, and it's just not screaming that to me. So in terms of when I make a game, I like to kind of give the personality of the game a little bit into it, make it a little more artsy, I guess you could say. And so what I'm going to do, or attempt to do, is try and give it a bit more of a patina to it, an artificial patina with paint, of course, and make it look more like oxidized copper. And so it's not something I've done a lot of. I did a little practice test piece on this little Egyptian thing here, which I think I can do a little bit of a better job this time around after having practiced it. But basically the idea is just to give it this little corroded look in the recesses and just take away a bit of the spray painted look to it. So we'll see how it turns out, and I'll show you what I'm doing along the way. Basically, I'm just going to be painting it with black first to kind of get into those crevices, because the way that metal corrodes, it's got these stages it goes through. First, as people over time are polishing their metal things, they're not going to be able to get into the little recesses. So eventually dirt and oils and stuff build up in there and just kind of sit. So it turns black, and then it starts to kind of get oily and turn kind of brown, and then it starts to corrode eventually. And for that we're going to be using this little greenish color, greenish blue, and I may actually add a little bit of green to it because it's a little more blue than what real copper looks like. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'm gonna probably speed up the whole process on high speed, and then we'll see how it turns out. Alright, so here's what we have after that first stage. I really like how this brings out all the ornateness of the engraving, and so I'm pleased with it. I also think that it came out better than the practice that I showed you in the beginning, and I think the reason for that is that I did more coats on this one. This, I think, only had 2 coats of the copper colored, and I think that it didn't, the first couple really kind of start, the wood just kind of absorbs a lot of that paint, so you still get these lines from the grain of the wood, and with more coats of the paint, it's built up to a thicker layer so that it's more glossy, so it was a lot easier to wipe it off without it sort of absorbing into the grain. And it did absorb a little into the little pit holes and things, which I actually intended, so I'm glad that it worked that way. I was a little worried that it was going to come out either too shiny or too grainy, but I think this is pretty much where I want it at this point. So what I'm going to do is let this dry overnight, so that tomorrow when I go to do the turquoisey colored matte finish kind of, I don't know what this is actually. It's just a paint I have. It's a matte finish turquoisey paint. When I go to put that layer on, I want to make sure that I'm not mixing the 2 paints. I don't want to have a muddy gray color. I want black, and then I want another layer of green. So I want to make sure this layer has dried thoroughly before I do the same thing with the turquoise. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Beautiful dreamer, won't you come and play? Save yourself for another rainy day. Beautiful dreamer, what do you see? When you're staring out the window, do you see me? Beautiful dreamer, won't you come and play? Save yourself for another rainy day. Beautiful dreamer, what do you see? When you're staring out the window, do you see me?
Hello again, everybody. So here is the final result. I actually forgot to film again when I finished painting, so it's all done now. So you get to see what it looks like. Yeah, it's got this sort of aged, corroded look to it. This is kind of what copper does when it's old. And again, since this is a game that has its roots back in some games that came from thousands of years ago and then traveled through history, I thought it would be nice to give it a little aged appearance. So this is kind of how it reflects the light in different angles, and then here's the back too with a similar look. Yeah, I'm pleased with how it turned out. I like the way it catches the light and everything. And then if you're interested in seeing what I did for the inside, it's actually kind of a similar technique. I used, first masked off the different points with tape to cover each alternate one, and then basically painted on this copper paint and then wiped it off so that you can see the little, if I can get it on camera, the little stripes there, they're actually engraved into the wood, and then the copper gets deep into the little crevices. And then again, I did the same thing with the same turquoise and green combination that you saw me use on this part, so it kind of ties things together. And then got our little instruction book for the pieces. These are I have another video that shows how I make game pieces, but these are cast out of concrete. I make a mold of an object basically, and then the silicone mold, then pour concrete into it, and then paint the pieces and put a sealer on there so that it stays. And then I glue felt to the bottom to keep them nice and soft, so they're not making terrible scratchy noises while you're playing, and it's not going to scratch up the game board on the inside. So that's the finished results, and I will try to do more of these videos to show how I do things, but that's a general peek into the process. If you're interested in purchasing this game, I'll put a link to the listing in my Etsy shop. I have that and many other games available to browse through if you're interested in that sort of thing. But in the meantime, I'll see you next time.